Hello and welcome
Oh.
to our live. If you're watching our podcast, welcome to the Positive Property Show. If you're on a Facebook Live, welcome there. If you can hear me, see me, type in hashtag live and hashtag replay if you're watching later. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about property in Bali compared to property in Australia. A lot of people have been asking me that, because I've been going around and looking at property, investing in property in Bali. So I was going to go through the pros and cons of what's better. And if anyone's got any predictions, type it in the chat, because I'll be very interested to see that. So let's talk about Australia and Bali. One thing that's very similar about Australia and Bali is they've both got a lot of growth, because when you look at property, the most important thing when it comes to property is the demand and supply equation. You got, more demand, less supply, property price is going to go up, and the other way around. Now, the number one thing that actually drives demand and supply is actually population. Now, let me just check and make sure. I've got to change the microphone. Is that better? Do I sound better now?
I keep talking?
Yep, I'll keep talking. And by the way,
sounds good.
We're going live in our Facebook group at the moment. And what we're going to do later is take it into our private group and talk with our clients. Yeah, so when it comes to demand and supply, the biggest thing is population. Because without population growth, you can't grow demand. Just not going to happen. So, yeah. And you can see this really clearly when you look at Europe, for example. So, for example, Italy, right? Italy is a classic example. The population of Italy is going down, as is most countries in Europe. So what's happened to the property market in Italy? Well, I'll give you a clue. You can actually buy a property in Italy for €2, which is like $4 Australian, right? That's what they're selling for. That's because there's so much supply and not enough demand. And a lot of villages in Italy are just turning into ghost villages. Like there's no one left. And the people running it, the mayor or whatever, they're like, let's just sell these properties cheap and get people in and actually get a population. Otherwise, it's going to die and no one's going to come back. So that's what happens when you go on the big side of way too much supply and not enough demand. So Bali is growing. More and more people are coming to Bali. Since COVID, it's had a huge resurgence. And because of that, because of the demand, it's pushing property prices up. Also, what's happened to Bali is we've got the Russia-Ukraine war. So a lot of the rich people in Russia and Ukraine got the hell out of Russia and Ukraine and came to Bali and invested a lot of money, which has put property prices up. So when you talk about return, in Australia, typically you're getting around about 3% return when you're looking in Melbourne and Sydney. And it's part of the reason I don't like investing in Melbourne and Sydney, because the return is so low.
So what sort of increase do you think you've seen, George? Sorry to interrupt.
The increase in Bali? Oh, it's been consistent. So here in Bali...
Internet.
Yep. Can you hear me, Adam?
Yeah, I've got you, mate.
You got me? Okay, great. Well, when COVID hit, Bali went really low, and a lot of people were desperate to sell because there was no one coming here and it was just dead. And then what happened was, after COVID, everyone started coming back and started pushing prices up. The Russians came in and started buying everything, which created more lack of supply. Christina, why are you turning all my lights off?
She's in the background. I see her in the mirror.
No, she's just fixing my lights. Actually, you're right. I look better now. But it's going to get dark, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, seeing someone in the background running around, doing things. Good on you, Christina. Yeah. I love your work. And so when you look at the lack of supply here, there's been a lack of supply. One thing about Bali, the rate of return on property is a lot higher because it's a holiday destination. So you can Airbnb your property and get a lot of money. I was looking at a property here in Bali, and it was $600,000 to buy. It was a leasehold, not a freehold. And it was getting about $4,000 a week.
Jeez.
Now, you'd never get $4,000 a week on a $600,000 property in Australia, would you? Just wouldn't happen. No. So the rate of return's better. So if you're looking at cash flow, Bali beats Australia. If you just looked at that alone, cash flow is better. And
is it only leasehold, or you can buy freehold over there?
Good question. Exactly. I want to explain leasehold.
Sorry to set you up there, mate.
No. So in Indonesia, because that's the country and Bali is the location, In Indonesia, when you're a foreigner, you cannot buy property freehold. So they've got
At
a
all.
leasehold option. Well, there is a way around it. I'm going to explain that too, because I've found the way around it, obviously. Of course, I'm going to do that. And I'll explain why I did find a way around it. So in Bali, there's leasehold. So you get a property, you can buy a property for 10, 15, 20, up to about 30 years leasehold. Usually 30 years is the max. It's usually about 20, 25 years, but you can get 10 or 15 years as well. So what that means is you buy a property, this one for 600,000, by the way, had 14 years left. So you pay $600,000 for this property, and in 14 years' time, you actually get the property and hand it back to the owner. Now, I'd like some comments what you think of that. But for me, it feels weird doing that, right? Because you're not really owning the property.
So you pay for maintenance, you pay for everything, and hand it back as is.
And you hand it back in 14 years' time, and that's it.
Does that not make sense to me at all? I don't know.
But everyone's doing it, and everyone said, George, that's what everyone does. You'll get over it. You'll get used to it. And I tried, but I couldn't do it. And I'll tell you why I couldn't do it. Because I'm a property investor, as everyone knows. And when I buy property, even though I'm buying a property here to live in, so I'm not buying it for investment, because when you're buying an owner-occupier, it's not the same as buying an investment property. They're two completely different things. And you've got to put your owner-occupier hat on. But even when I put my owner-occupier hat on, I still want to make money because I don't want to lose money. I don't want to spend $1 million and then give it back to someone in 14 years. So I couldn't do it because when you buy a leasehold property, you've got a set time, and every single year that property is going down in value. Because you think about it, if you get a 30-year lease and you paid $1 million, and then you've had it for 5 years, then it's going to go down in value because the lease is less. Now, property prices might go up as well, but the lease goes down. So you've got two forces fighting against it in two ways. And what I want to do is I want both forces pushing up my property. So funny enough, I found a way around it here in Bali. And actually you can get a PM, a company, a PT, and you can start a company here. And that's what Christine and I did. We started the company. And then we got this company to sponsor us, and we've moved to Indonesia. So we sponsored ourselves with this company. Pretty cool. And now we're residents of Indonesia. That means I can buy a HMB property, which is you get a freehold property and you convert it to a business freehold, which means we get the property for 80 years and then you can increase it for another 20. So 100 years. And I think 100 years is not too bad. I can't hear you, Adam. You're muted.
Sorry, I've got internet issues. I'm just trying to fix it. I'm Wi-Fi hotspotting off my phone, bud.
Oh, right. Okay. I'll let you fix your internet issues and I'll just keep talking. So that's what you do. So the way I see it, you buy something with 100 years on it, you've got 100 years of growth, but not really, because you want to sell it when you've got 30 years left, because 30 years is standard for leasehold here. So you can keep it for 70 years and then sell it with 30 and get all the growth, which is pretty cool. So the return's better in Bali compared to Australia. You look at capital cities in Australia, Melbourne or Sydney, you're getting around 3% or less, which is terrible. And, in Adelaide, Brisbane and Perth, you're getting between 4.5 to 5.5%. And then if you go further out, you're getting slightly more percent. So the return in Australia compared to Bali is very, very low. And the growth that's happening in Bali is similar to Australia. So over the next 10 years, Bali's going to grow just as much as Australia does. So then a lot of people will be saying, well, George, if you're getting a better return in Bali and you're getting the same growth, why are you investing in Australia and not Bali? Wouldn't Bali make more sense? Well, let me explain the caveat and the challenge here in Bali. In Indonesia, you can't get a loan to buy a property, full stop. So that means that if you buy a property here, you've got to pay cash. So suddenly you've got no leverage. So if I want to buy $1 million property, I've got to get $1 million cash. That's a lot of money and put it down. So then it's a thing called opportunity cost. That $1 million in Australia, I could divvy it out as deposits and buy 5 to 10 properties, right? $100,000 a property, there's 10 properties if you get the finance, but at least 5. But here in Bali, you're stuck with 1. Then let's say I get a property in Bali and I get growth and I get an extra 500,000 equity. What can I do with the equity? Nothing. Can't touch it. that equity sits there and I cannot use it because I can't refinance. So that
Another question.
Yep.
If you sold that property, do you pay tax on that money?
Yes, but
You
not
do.
much. Not much. It's like 5%. So here in Indonesia, not much. So you're paying 5%. So the only way for me to realize my capital growth in Bali is to sell and pay 5%,
With the lease.
which is nothing. You sell it and then you can get your money. But the problem is that equity is stuck there and I can't use it. But in Australia, if I get growth, I can refinance and get the equity, put it into something else and refinance and keep going. So the beauty of Australia is because I can reuse the equity, I can keep growing my portfolio and keep doing that. So that is much better because also selling a property in Bali can be troublesome and hard because you need to find someone with cash. So it doesn't happen quickly. So in Australia, you want to sell a property, you put it in the market, it's gone, done, unless you overprice it too much. Very easy to sell a property in Australia. So it's really safe. If you get into trouble, you need to sell a property, no one's going to have a problem selling a property in Australia at all. In Indonesia, it's different because people have to pay cash. It's a lot harder to find someone with cash to actually buy your property. So you need to wait a long time and be patient if you want to sell a property. That's just the way it is. It's the way it is. So,
G'day, George.
Yes, g'day.
It's Adam here. So you can rent it out, can you?
Yes, you can rent it out. Absolutely. Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. But looking at both sides, I would say that Australian property is much more superior to Indonesian property because one, you keep it forever. Two, you can use the equity and grow it. So I'd say it's just better. So hands down. So property in Bali is more speculative if you're a speculator, and that's it. Where Australian property is blue chip, it's easy to move and sell. Because the challenge is if you buy a property and you can't sell it, then it's not really, then it's hard. It's not a liquid asset, is it? It's hard. And that's the other challenge. So I think also laws can change here. Who knows? They might change their mind and say, you're a foreigner, you can't have 100 years anymore. We're going to give you 20. Like, who knows? Where in Australia, the rules aren't going to change in Australia. They're going to stay the same. I'm always going to have access to my property. So there you go. Okay, so I think we've got a few questions going through. What's your take on South Australia abolishing stamp duty? I didn't know about that. So I'd find
Am I
out.
back, George? Am I here?
Yep, you're back. You're back.
Oh, great. I fixed it.
Adam,
Okay.
you're back.
What was the question? Welcome to the party. What's going on? What was the last question?
Oh, the last question someone asked is, what do you think of SA abolishing stamp duty? I don't think they're going to do
Yeah,
that.
they were talking about that. So they did talk about that. That's only for, it's not for everybody, not for investors.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Exactly. It wouldn't be for investors. Look what's happening in Melbourne at the moment. So in Melbourne, they're actually looking at doubling council rates and utilities and
mate.
everything else. Adam, you're shocking. Your internet's shocking.
Thought I fixed it.
They're looking at certain suburbs in Melbourne. They're looking at actually doubling council rates for investors. And they're just piling on expense after expense on investors. The worst place to buy property in Australia is Melbourne. It's terrible now. It's changed. You know what I mean? Especially if you've got multiple. If you've got one property, it's okay, depending on what suburb. But multiple properties, the land tax and everything, it was terrible. You really want to stay underneath that threshold of the land tax when it comes to Melbourne. I want to go through some properties. Adam,
Mate, I'd like my internet to work. I'm hotspotting off my phone again. Let's see if that's going to work.
okay,
Is this working?
it's working. Adam, you're back.
Let's go.
Great. Okay, so let's talk about a few properties that we've done recently, a few success stories. I'm going to share my screen, and Adam, I'll get you to go through this. Here we go. Let's start here. And how do I get this slide happening?
Slideshow.
Look at this. Look at that picture, Adam.
Beautiful. Bali, ready, sunny day,
Okay.
internet's working. Life was good then.
Excellent.
So New South Wales, so Stephen and Vanessa, these are positive clients. These guys are, we won't tell you their last names, but they do live in New South Wales. They're in their mid-40s. They bought a townhouse off the plan back in 2022, I think in about September 22, before 19. And now today it's been valued about 650. So in the space of 2 years, that's the sort of money that they have picked up by taking the risk of buying something off the plan. And this is, the reward they've made. Put 10% down deposit, no more to pay, property's completed, tenanted out, and they've made themselves a couple $100,000.
Beautiful.
In equity.
And there's still strong growth in Morayfield.
100%. You can't get stuff. It's
You just can't.
If we had 10 more in Morayfield, we'd be happy.
Okay, have a look at this one here.
So these guys are a good one. This is these guys are from WA. They're in their 50. The house is still under construction, so the house is not built. They bought it for $475, and now they're talking $599 in Monopara, which I think might be even a bit cheap now. I think your Monoparas are going to be more about your $619 to $629.
I think $599 is too cheap. Did I buy one of these? Did I buy one of these? Did I buy one of these? Oh, there you go. Thank you for letting me know. I don't even know what I'm buying, but I can even tell you, I think you bought like 13, to be honest, in this estate. There you go.
So
there you go.
What I'm saying is these houses aren't even finished.
Excellent.
Yeah, so these houses aren't even finished. As you can see, the kitchens are sort of in, the bathrooms are sort of in, but the value just keeps going up and up. So once again.
So what happens, by the way, just so everyone knows, is with every project that we do, I actually put my name on the last property. And if people get it, you guys get, our members get the first option to take it. But if it's left over, I take it, just so you know.
Well, this one was, I think a client, this one came back on the market and you jumped on it straight away just to make sure. So
well, actually, I had to buy this one.
Yeah.
Because I had to save our client from losing money.
That's right.
Yes.
The client had gone unconditional and we needed to settle it pretty quickly. So
they were going to lose 90 grand deposit because they couldn't settle, and I paid cash and bought it.
Sorted it out.
But yeah, absolutely. Look, that's what I do anyway, because at the end of the day, I get always the last property, or if someone gets in trouble, I take their property off them and we just keep going. That's the thing. But it's really good. It's not built yet. It's already gone up.
Yeah.
Have a look at
this one's another one. This is WA. So I think we've all heard about what's happening in WA with the market. Build prices that have started to creep up. Again, they're saying the valuation is $619. I think it'd be very hard to find a brand new property in WA for that. The last land I saw was sort of in that high 3s, early 4s. Your build cost is a couple $1,000s a square meter. So I think your entry level for WA is going to be very high 6s to early 7s. But anyway, I digress. These guys only signed up in 2023. As you can see, the house is pretty much the same construction phase as the South Oz, and $619 value, which I think is low. Yeah,
there you go. Thank you for sharing that, Adam. I really appreciate it.
It just shows that there is.
It's good to know what people are doing and everything else like that. Because what I want to do next is, because we've got you on the show, we're going to talk about any questions people have got about building and properties and developers. That's what Adam's expertise is. And that's what we're going to talk about. So I'll ask the team to switch off the live. I think the live is finished now. Let me have a look at the calendar. Yep, I think the live's finished. And now we can go and talk in our private group.